What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, I'm going to talk about Wildcard for Game Week 8. And the team I've come up with, I'm quite jealous of. I think it looks really interesting. There's lots of strong defender options right now. Lots of strong midfielders. It's only forwards that I'm a little bit unsure about, but I'll discuss that in the video. So let's get into it. So as always, let's start with the defensive players. It's probably no surprise that I've gone for a double up on the Arsenal defence. On my own wildcard in Game Week 4, I picked Raya and Gabriel. I probably would have done the same on wildcard 6-2. This time I've gone a little bit different. So Gabriel is still in. He's probably one of the first players that I would pick. But I've gone for Timber over Raya. Timber is basically making himself very difficult to ignore at the moment. If you look at the minutes and games so far for him, he got benched in Game Week 1 against Man United ever since he started every game. And in 4 of those 6 games, he's played 90 minutes. He's already got 2 goals, 2 assists. Now, to be fair, 3 of those at 4 attacking returns came against Leeds in Game Week 2. But he's picking up lots of nice positions in every game. He's just got another assist against West Ham. The minutes look good. And he's quite a big differential as well. His ownership overall is only 17%. And I doubt that it's much... Like, if you took a sample of teams watching this video, like engaged managers, I bet his ownership's not much more than that. So he's quite a big differential. And he's a bit more exciting than going for David Raya. Also, I think a lot of people will want a Newcastle defender for their wildcard 18 because defensively they've been brilliant so far. And I just think Pope and Timber is so much nicer than Raya and Dan Burn, especially if Dan Burn's going to play left back a lot, because that dampens his defensive contribution potential. So Timber and Pope for me is just a better combination if you're going to target one Arsenal, one Newcastle. So Timber's in there. I have spoken previously about his minutes, that he's more likely to get benched than Gabriel is. I still think that's true, but the fact that he got a benching in the Champions League made me a lot more hopeful about his minutes in the Premier League. I still think in any given game, if there's going to be a rest for a defender, it's more likely to be Timber than Gabriel. But he's not like he's going to be missing every other game, or 1 in 3 or 1 in 4. It's going to be more like maybe 1 in 6, 1 in 7, maybe even not that little. Like if Arsenal do well in the Champions League, especially in the group stages early on, they might get a chance to rest Timber again there rather than in the Premier League, where, by the way, they're in pole position. And if they're ever going to win it, surely it's this season. Surely with the squad they've got, it's got to be this season that Arsenal go and do it. And of course, they will focus on the Champions League as well. But I think Timber's just going to play a lot. He's clearly first choice, like Calafiori on the left side, and he just looks more attacking. So that's probably where I would go. Of course, if you want to be absolutely sure about minutes, you go for Raya and Burn, or a different combination altogether, whichever one you prefer. But I just think it's difficult to ignore Timber. Obviously, as well, if you go double up on the defence, you can't go for a double up on the attack. In my opinion, that's fine. Like for my own team, I look at it and think I've got Van Dijk, my only Liverpool player. That might be one, too many. For Arsenal, I've got 3, and that might not be enough. Like I'd love to have like 4 or 5 Arsenal players, but at the same time, there's lots of competitive attackers. Like Saka's great. With Yorkresh, I think most people that have got him are going to keep him because of the fixtures, but they're not going to be too far away from getting rid of him. Eze's fine. And if Odegaard's out for a while, his minutes probably look pretty good. But there's lots of midfielders between 6 and 7.5 million that you can look at instead of Eze. Like Semenyo, Anthony Gordon, Enzo Fernandez, Sarr, etc. And there's probably more that I haven't even listed there. It's the same for Rice. Rice is good, but so's Enzo Fernandez. So's Ismail Assar. So's Minter. So's Paquetá. Whereas in defence, the drop-off from Arsenal defenders is a little bit bigger. Maybe less so this season because of defensive contributions. But you get the point I'm trying to make. I think Arsenal attackers are good, but there's lots of other options I wouldn't mind. Defensively, if you said you've got to drop Gabriel for someone, I don't really want to do that. You got to drop Rice for Enzo? Fine. Happy with that. Don't care. So I think double up on defence is my preference over double up on attack. To actually talk about some of the other defenders, like I said, defensively, Newcastle done very well. Pope's a bit cheaper than Raya, also cheaper than Donnarumma as well. If you wanted to go Donnarumma or Vardy, I don't mind it. But I don't really see too much excitement going to Man City. I don't think they're necessarily miles better defensively than a lot of other teams you could pick, etc. Vardy is fairly attacking, but I don't know. I just like the Pope pick and go, and then I've gone for Munoz in defence. Now, let's be honest with ourselves, or let me be honest right now. That's very much a bit of a knee-jerk because he's just scored. Because before that, it was all about defensive contributions. All of a sudden, I've got Timber and Munoz. It's a little bit knee-jerky after the game week just gone. But you know what? The Munoz goal was a nice reminder about what he can do. And his minutes are great whether he's in Europe or not. It doesn't matter. He's just going to play. The guy's an absolute machine. And look, all the Palace defenders are good, and I would definitely have one on wildcard. You could go for Richards, Gay, or Lacroix, or Munoz. I probably wouldn't go for Mitchell. I think he is the worst of the lot. But if you can afford it, having that goal scorer in there just might be worth it. I mean, the consistency of defensive contributions are probably still worth going for. Like maybe Lacroix or even Gay is probably a slightly better option than Munoz. But it's just that excitement level. Like when he scored that goal, the position he was in, like it's absolutely ridiculous how much space he had for that goal. And Everton weren't great, but he gets that kind of room in a lot of games. Like against Liverpool, he came really close to scoring as well. And I'm hoping that even as a non-owner, that he disrupts the defensive contribution kind of meta, if you want to call it that at the moment. So I've gone for Munoz. If you want to downgrade him to someone cheaper, that's fine. And on the bench, I've gone for Senesi and Anderson, which is extremely boring because they've been in pretty much every wildcard team for anyone that's used a wildcard this season. But they are still pretty good for defensive contributions. The long-term fixtures are good as well. And most of the time, you're going to play your Arsenal and Palace player anyway. But obviously in Game Week 9, Palace have Arsenal away, so you can bench Munoz and play, I think it's Senesi against, let me just double check, who's Senesi got next to it? I think it's Forest at home. Yeah, so you just play him over Munoz in Game Week 9. Then Game Week 10 onwards, you just mostly play Munoz anyway. If you wanted to downgrade one of Anderson or Senesi, probably Anderson more so, to like a 4 million defender, so Rodon, Goodmanson, Alderete, etc. That is fine to save some money. But if you've got the cash, that makes your squad quite nice long term in terms of depth. So when Champions League matches are happening, we get closer to Christmas, you've got a squad that you can rely on, which is why I kind of like it. But it is a lot of money in defence, and a lot of people don't like that, right? So if you want to go down to a 4 million, that is fine. But I think that sets you up pretty damn nice over the next few weeks. And I've looked, and it rotates really well. And I'm not sure there's a huge amount of other defenders that you're really missing, like a Chelsea defender maybe. But I just think the odd benching there would kind of put me off. And like Chalobah's probably fine once he's back from suspension, but is he better than any of those 5 I've picked? I'm not sure. The only defender team that I haven't covered on Wildcard that I own is Van Dijk. But I feel like you've really got to have confidence that Liverpool are going to turn it around to include him. Like the next 3 fixtures are not bad for him. I don't mind holding on to him in my own team. And long-term, 12 onwards, the fixtures are really good. So you could put him in now to not have to make a transfer later. But I can't get my words out. I think I would just wait and maybe bring him in, because the way I've set this team up, you don't need to make any transfers for quite a while anyway. I think that's what most people should do. Wildcard and look to roll in 9, maybe 10, etc. as well. And then make your moves for Liverpool players later on. But you could definitely include him if you want. And then obviously Dubravka on the bench, because he's the only 4 million keeper that's going to play long term. So my midfield 5 is Saka, Semenyo, Sarr, then Enzo Fernandez and Lucas Paquetá. The only midfielder there I'm not quite sure about is Paquetá. I think he's the one in that 5 that people will be looking at thinking, I don't really want to go there. And if that's the case, just simply don't pick him. I think that's more than fine. I just think in the short term, he's pretty good. Like, he's absolutely nailed. He plays 90 basically every single game. He's on penalties as well. And the fixtures are quite decent. So it's Brentford at home in 8, Leeds away in 9. Newcastle at home in 10 is a little bit tougher. But that week, you could play like a back 4. I think Arsenal have got Burnley away. Munoz has got Brentford at home. And Anderson's got Wolves at home. So you could even play a back 4 and bench Paquetá if you wanted to. Then it's Burnley at home in 11. So 3 of the next 4 are pretty decent. But after that, the fixtures do get a bit rougher. Now, you're never going to have to worry about him because he's always going to play. He's always got penalties in his locker. But I'm not sure I would necessarily want to play him too often. So that's why I'm not quite sure about him. I think he's okay in the short term. But for a lot of people watching this, you're not going to want to hold him long term. So I think about maybe going somewhere else. If you've got the money, Minter at Brighton is only 0.1 million more. And I just think the long-term fixtures for Brighton are pretty good. His minutes have been great so far this season. He's definitely the attacker to buy from Brighton right now. And I think you'd be more comfortable holding him for the long term. So I do like Paquetá as a short-term move. And if you're sitting there with, your wild card in play and you've got 2 or 3 transfers ready to roll from Game Week 9 onwards, then maybe you can make those shorter-term plays. But long-term, maybe Minter is slightly better. The other 4 I just really like. I think Saka's the Arsenal attacker to get if you can afford it. Looks to be first choice penalty taker. I don't think that's in question right now. I still think there's a chance he won't take every single penalty that Arsenal get this season, even if he's on the pitch, but he's going to take the majority. He's also a nice route back to Palmer if he becomes an option over the next few weeks. I just like Saka. So he looks pretty clear as a choice based on the info we've got over the last couple of weeks. Semenyo's almost a no-brainer. I will say, if you've got to game week 8 and you haven't owned Semenyo yet, and you're buying him new at, what is he now, 7.9, you could look to go against him. I think that's fine, because he's getting up to the point where he's like the same price as Foden, etc. I know he's doing better, I get that, but he's not going to continue at this rate. You could dodge him, but honestly, he's nailed. He plays 90 every game. If Kluivert's not on the pitch, which he hasn't been a lot so far this season, he's on penalties. His goal threat is genuinely quite good. And the long-term fixtures are also pretty decent for Bournemouth. Okay, Palace away straight away is not amazing, and it is City away in 10. But honestly, outside of that, there are not many games to worry about. Forest at home in 9, great. Villa away in 11, not bad. West Ham at home in 12 is good. Sunderland away in 13 is good. Everton at home in 14. Then you'll get into the Christmas period, and it does get a bit trickier for Bournemouth. So they've got Chelsea in 15 and 19. But then it's Man United away, Burnley at home, Brentford away. You've got a guy that you know is going to play every minute over that Christmas period. I would probably include him way more often than I wouldn't. Ismail Assar at Palace, just really good value. Just gets into such good position. Should have had another assist. The game just gone against Everton. Mateta missed a glorious chance that would have been a Sarr assist. I just think for that money, it's hard to look against him. The underlying numbers are great. Yes, they've got Europe, and that might catch up with them eventually. Like against Liverpool, amazing first half, not so good in the second half. Against Everton, they were all over them in the first half. Honestly, should have been, way more up than just, I think it was 1-0 at that point. And then the second half, not so great. Everton came back into it. So maybe Europe is a little bit of a worry for Palace because of their squad depth. They don't rotate that much. But it is really difficult to look against Sarr. And again, the way this team is set up, you could bench him against Arsenal in game week 9, and the fixtures afterwards are pretty decent. So I don't think Sarr's a no-brainer. I wouldn't say he's essential, but I'm pretty sure I would be picking him if I was wildcarding this week. And then Enzo Fernandez just continues to look great, especially when Cole Palmer's not an option. Probably next in line for penalties. Not completely convinced João Pedro doesn't take one, but I think we have to say it's Enzo, right? He took the last penalty with João Pedro and him on the pitch. Therefore, like Saka, he's probably first choice right now while Palmer's injured. Playing number 10 and getting into some really nice positions for scoring goals. And the fixture's just really good for Chelsea. It's Forest away this week, and then you run straight into Sunderland at home in 9. You know he's going to play all the minutes. Spurs away in 10, Wolves at home in 11, Burnley away in 12. And then you worry about what to do with him when he gets to Arsenal at home in 13. But then you got Leeds away, but Bournemouth away, Everton at home. Like the fixture's just good for a while. Now Palmer might be back at some point, and Enzo might drop a little bit deeper. But I just have a feeling this Palmer injury is going to persist for a little while longer. And like for 6.7 million, there's quite a few jump offs for Enzo Fernandez. So I think it's fine to include him. And the longer Palmer's an issue, the better Enzo Fernandez becomes. People are going to look at this midfield and say, you've not mentioned Gordon, you've not mentioned Kudus, right? All of a sudden, there's a lot of good midfield options. Those players are fine if you want to go for them. Like with Kudus, he just keeps playing. I love players like that. You know that by now. A player that just basically plays close to 90 minutes every game, always an option for me. The fixtures are about to get a bit tougher for Spurs. Game week 10, it's Chelsea at home, Man United at home, Arsenal away, Fulham at home, Newcastle away. This is not a great run. And it's even Everton away before that, which is not bad, but not amazing fixture either. So I would probably dodge Kudus at this point, but if you wanted to go for him, I would not argue against it whatsoever. And obviously Gordon, we presume, is still first choice penalty taker. He took 2 while Voltemada was on the pitch in Champions League, but he keeps getting subbed early. And so I don't think he's quite as essential as he initially looked when he took those penalties. Again, it's fine if you want to go there. There's a reason I've picked Nick Pope. The fixtures for Newcastle are quite good for quite a while. But if you go for him, you've got to drop someone. Now, if you've got loads of money in the bank, then of course, drop Paquetá and put Gordon in. And you could drop Munoz down to a 4.5 or a 4. You could even go down all the way to 4 million. That might let you do Paquetá to Gordon. I don't mind that whatsoever. It's obviously up to you how you want to set your team up. But I don't see Anthony Gordon as essential, is all I would say. Is there any other midfielders I've missed? Probably. There's a lot of options right now. Look, if we want to start talking about Jadon Anthony, Caicedo, they're all fine. If you want to pick someone else instead of Paquetá, whatever. But Caicedo's not going to keep scoring. He just isn't. It's a massive overperformance so far. He's a good option because of DEFCONs, etc. And I know I said it previously. He's not going to score. Then he scored again. But I'd have no interest putting him in the team. I've spoken about Arsenal players. Njai, another player that's more than fine to include, but buying him before City away doesn't feel great. But the fixtures afterwards are okay, and he's on penalties. So throw him in with Kudus and Gordon as options. You've only got 5 midfield spots. Make sure you're pretty clear on who you want, because there's a ton of other options. And obviously, I guess one player I've not talked about is Salah. The problem is, you cannot go Salah over Haaland right now. That feels way too risky. And to go both means you've got to make some sacrifices. Like, to go from Saka to Salah, you got to find over 4 million. And when I think about the players that I would have to remove to do that, I'm just not massively happy about it. You could, in a minute when I talk about the forwards, just drop one of the forwards down to a 4.3. That would give you about 3 million to spend straight away. So it is definitely doable. I don't know. I just keep coming back to the fact that every time I look at a Salah Haaland draft, I think it looks okay. When I put one together, I don't like the sacrifices I have to make. And I just think you can go without Salah until game week 12. And you can just figure it out later. So build a squad that you're happy to roll with over the next couple of weeks. I mean, roll a transfer so that you can set yourself up in 12 to really think about Salah. I don't think you need to necessarily go for him straight away. But also, he's quite, I wouldn't say huge, but he's a big differential right now. And the next 3 fixtures, honestly, I think you could argue are better for Liverpool than they are for Man City. So if you want a differential captain, absolutely think about including Salah, but it's got to be with Haaland, not without. And then up front, I've gone for Erling Haaland, João Pedro and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Erling Haaland would be an absolute lock on Wildcard 8 for me. I just couldn't justify going for Salah over Haaland right now. If you want Salah, as I've just discussed, you've probably got to go for both. And look, Haaland is human. He only scored 1 goal this weekend, didn't have a huge amount of chances outside of that either. That is going to happen in some games. He's not going to score 2 or 3 goals every single game week, but he's getting so many chances on average per game. It's just really hard to look against him. So I think if you want Salah, you've got to go for both. And like I said, you could argue that Liverpool's fixtures are better next 3. You want a big differential, think about Salah, but you've got to include Haaland too for me. I don't think I really need to discuss it too much more than that. The other 2 forward spots, I'm really open to changing to someone else. I think on Wildcard, when I was putting this draft together, forwards were probably the spots that I had the most difficulty with. I think if you've still got a bench boost to play, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is basically the cheapest forward that's going to play right now because Muniz is injured and Calvert-Lewin only costs 5.5. Guillaume might get some minutes, but you're never, ever going to be confident that he's going to start. So Calvert-Lewin is the cheapest way you can go. But if you've used your bench boost, you could absolutely go Haaland, then someone like João Pedro. It doesn't have to be him. I'll come on to that in a minute. And then a dead spot like Guillaume instead of Calvert-Lewin. Or if you want to go really cheap up front, which I know some people will be considering, you could go Haaland, Calvert-Lewin dead spot as well. And just put all your money in midfield defence. Like I've said this for weeks now. Anytime someone talks to me about changing a forward, all I think is you're probably just buying another bad forward. Like Voltemada, of course, now he scored the penalty at the weekend, looks a bit better. But had Gordon been on the pitch, Gordon takes that, Voltemada blanks, and he's got 2 goals in 4 games, which is fine. But that's what I feel like with all forwards. They're all just fine. Like no one's a standout that's like an amazing option. I think those of us like me, for example, that have got Haaland, Evanilson, Gyökeres, it just feels like way too much money in the forward line. So I think if you've used your bench boost in particular, going for a third forward dead spot, like if you're gonna have any position where it's like a non-playing player, it's got to be that third forward. There's too many good midfielders to tank one of those spots instead. So you can go, like I said, either way. Haaland, João Pedro dead spot, Haaland, Calvert-Lewin dead spot. I don't mind it. Obviously, if you go the Haaland, Calvert-Lewin, Guillaume route, then you need to make a couple of transfers to get money back into your forward line. But that's probably fine because you're going to roll for a couple of weeks anyway. So Calvert-Lewin, 5.5 million, cheapest playing forward right now, probably on penalties. Minutes look good. Yes, there are concerns over his finishing. He gets a lot of chances. He doesn't score a lot of goals sometimes. But he does keep getting chances. He is on penalties, I suspect, for Leeds as well. I think he's an okay pick as like an 8th attacker that you can use sometimes. Other times he's just not there. João Pedro is an interesting one because I've not owned him all season. And I've said many times I think his ownership's way too high for how good of an option he is. He's taken hardly any shots in recent games as well. Maresca keeps talking about a small issue that he's got, but he keeps getting good minutes. He's not in the Brazil squad, so there's obviously some kind of issue there, although it is just friendlies for Brazil, I think. I still think I would seriously consider him. He's going to play the Forest game. He's suspended for the midweek Champions League, so he's going to play Sunderland as well. And the fixtures after that are just pretty good. And he is consistently playing number 9. Now, I don't even necessarily think he's a great number 9. His goal scoring record outside of penalties in the Premier League is not very good. I said this a few weeks ago, but he's still in that Chelsea team. He's still in that attack, playing regular minutes. The fixtures are good, so I definitely would consider him. But I don't think he's essential. I don't think I've ever thought that this season. If you want to go elsewhere, you could. Like Bowen is an option. The fixtures for West Ham are quite good in the short term. But I still think, like I mentioned with Paquetá, longer term, they're not that great. Jarrod Bowen's not on penalties either. So him versus João Pedro, I think it's quite a close call. With Jarrod Bowen, you get guaranteed 90s every single week, no question. So that's quite nice. But I don't know. I'm not. I think I would pick João Pedro over Jarrod Bowen. I think. Just I think Chelsea are a stronger team. Then you got Voltemada, who I don't mind. Newcastle's fixtures are good. Next in line for penalties. Don't mind him whatsoever. You can probably keep him for the long term. At some point, this is going to be back. That will impact his minutes. That'd be my only worry. It's probably going to be another 4 or 5 games until that happens. And the other player that I think a lot of people will consider is Mateta. And I've got a free Palace spot, so I could go for him. The fixtures are quite good. Now, Nketiah is back now, which means the minutes for Mateta aren't quite so secure. You see he played like close to 90 every game until game week 7. Then he came off on 69. Obviously, he played in Europe as well. So he's not going to be a 90-minute man every week, but he is on penalties, and Palace is just a strong side. And the fixtures from 10 onwards are just pretty good for quite a while. So I quite like Mateta. Honestly, I'm a little bit unsure what I would do with forwards if I was on Wildcard. I suspect because of the next coming fixtures and the guaranteed minutes from João Pedro, I'd probably go there. But Mateta, Voltemada, Voltemada and Bowen are all good options. I just quite like João Pedro, and you can always move him on later on. There's not really anyone else that I would consider. Like your question, obviously, I've got triple Arsenal, so you can't go there. Evan Neal said I just wouldn't go to. Thiago's fine for 6.1. I just question whether he's 0.6 better than Calvert-Lewin. Maybe he is. Isak is someone I guess people will think about. I just couldn't go there. For 10.6 million, I just the sacrifice I would have to make to get Isak in just doesn't feel worth it. Like 73 minutes against Chelsea, 83 against Palace, but Ekitike was suspended. He's back now. Fixtures are okay. I don't hate the Isak pick, but I wouldn't want to find a way to get him in. Šeško, no. Wood, no. Isidore, not for me. I think I prefer Calvert-Lewin. I just don't completely trust Isidore's minutes. Like, the fact that he didn't start the first 3 games and my ender is fit, like, the minutes are never going to be secure. He got subbed before 60 against Man United. Richarlison you can't go to because you can't guarantee he's going to start. Watkins, the fixtures are dead now. Honestly, I think that's all. I think that's the only forwards I'd be looking at. Haaland, João Pedro, Bowen, Voltemada, Mateta, and Calvert-Lewin, or a dead spot. That's it. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. I quite like how that looks. I'm a little bit jealous of Wildcard 8. I know a lot of people that are wildcarding in 8 are a little bit behind. Not everyone, but some of them. But I think this is a bit more of an interesting team compared. Like, I'm only saying that because I felt like Wildcard 6 looked quite similar to my Wildcard in 4. So I was a little bit less worried about, although Wildcard 6 has done very well, especially because they had Gabriel for Game Week 6 specifically. But this I just think looks really nice. And I'm quite jealous of it because I don't have Pope, Munoz, Timber, Saka, Sarr, Enzo, João Pedro, Calvert-Lewin. There's 8 of this team I don't have. Now, obviously, there's still competitive players to them. They're not essential. I think there's reason to be excited if you're on Wildcard 8. Anyway, if you're Wildcard this week, let me know below how much you hate this team and which players you would be picking instead. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. And I will catch you again soon for some more videos.